What started you down the path to even enter the criminal justice system?
I feel like I wasn't able to be a kid. You have to understand like the things that we're exposed to. I feel like my own existence is illegal. At the end of the day, it's survival. Like, how valuable is your life? Because you only have one. Jail never scared me straight. I came out worse. When I got released, everyone's kind of waiting for my cue. Like, I just expected I'm just gonna reoffend, and I'm like, nah, man, like, I need better for myself. Like, I know that I can do better.
What made you make that change?
Why wait till you get there to learn these lessons if I could save you that trip? I transformed my life to be living proof.
Welcome back to another episode of Who Judges the Judge, the podcast meant to make you question the way you judge the world around you. Today's guest is Jeremy Persaud. He is the CEO of A1 Films. It's a film company based out of Toronto. He's also the founder of an incredible organization called the Commitment Program, aimed at providing youth with access to employment opportunities as well as counseling and educational workshops in hopes of steering them in the right direction. Jeremy, thank you so much for being on the show today and spending your afternoon coming to share with me a little bit about what you're doing. I love it, first of all. We don't really know each other.
Yeah.
You reached out to me last month. I think actually of all the guests I've had, you're someone I know the least of everyone I've interviewed.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. You reached out to me on Instagram and we're just like, hey, can you come do a workshop on, constitutional rights and charter rights for youth? And I was like, sure. Can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do? And you sent me this email about your history, your journey, your story, and your program. And I was so moved. I really was. Not only, of course, agreeing to do the workshop that we're about to run in a couple of weeks, but, I wanted you as a guest to talk about your story and how you, sort of the catalyst to you starting the Commitment Program and also some of the challenges you've had running it.
Yeah.
So many people in society right now are like, oh, these youth, how come they go through the system and they cycle through and there's all this recidivism and nobody's doing anything to like help themselves or help others. And you are an example of someone who has not only helped yourself get out of the system, but now you're trying to help others stay out of the system.
Exactly.
Let's talk about it.
So, part of why I sent such an extensive email, because like I really want you to feel where I'm coming from and not that like I just want something from you. There's like a lot behind it, So I guess we're going to talk about all that.
Absolutely.
In the podcast.
And I did feel it. Like as soon as I read your email, I was like, yes, I'm going to come and do your workshop. No problem. Send me dates and times.
Yeah.
And also like come share your story with me because I really, really was moved.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to read your email, but it starts off with you telling me that you had served time for a gun offense.
Yeah.
When did that, how old were you when you were charged with being in possession of a firearm?
So I was like about 27, just turned 28.
Okay.
Around there.
And did you get bail?
Yeah, so I got bail
Okay.
after a while, struggle, so couldn't really get it in the neighborhood. So I had to kind of outsource family member or somebody, but most of the family lives in like housing or like areas. Finally, I did end up finding someone and I was able to get bail. And then I was on house arrest for maybe 2.5 years.
Okay.
So.
And while you were on house arrest, did you breach?
Yeah, I ended up breaching eventually.
Okay.
I actually got caught for a breach for having a cell phone.
Okay.
So one of my conditions, I was supposed to have a cell phone. And at the time I had 2 cell phones. But I ended up beating that charge essentially. But when I was sentenced, you're supposed to go to penitentiary because I was provincial.
Okay.
But I got to stay within the city because I still had the charge. So I had court every 2 weeks.
Right.
So that kind of helped me to stay in the city, so my family could visit and stuff. It's easier. And yeah,
And what was the sentence? You ultimately pled guilty.
So yeah, I pled guilty. So it was just it's a long story and everything, but I had 16 charges initially, but then they dropped it down to 4. And they tried to put me up against my brother, collateral damage.
Okay.
And then, they basically said if you go to trial, you'll get 6 years both if you lose. But if you plead guilty, we'll just give you 3 years. And I was like, you know what? I'll take the 3 years. And as long as you free my bro, then I'll just take that, So my lawyer advised against going to plea because he was like, he could beat the case. But like, he basically wants like on top of what we already paid him, he wanted like another like 35K to go to trial. Realistically, our family, we don't really have money like that, and then not really getting through with legal aid and stuff like that. So it's like, not to say that legal aid is bad or anything, but, like I've seen a lot of people get dump trucked, right?
Yes.
So having a good lawyer is like a really important thing, So
I think it's harder now than ever for people
Yeah.
to find a good lawyer that will take a legal aid certificate. They're very few and far between.
Just looking at the financial side of things, I just pled guilty that I'm just going to do my time and then just keep it moving with my life.
So let's talk. 'Cause there's some people that think that if you're charged with a crime, you're a criminal, and therefore you'll always be a criminal, and therefore we should just, lock you up and throw away the key. I get a lot of comments like that on my feed. What started you down the path to even enter the criminal justice system? What was life like for you growing up, going through school, like going through the motions?
You have to think like, how it all starts. So like my family coming to Canada.
From where?
From Guyana.
Okay.
So when they came from there, they came from poverty. They came from a lot of racism, discrimination, a lot of like, just hardships and sometimes even famine, like shortage of foods, certain things like that. So when they came to Canada, like first of all, their probably dream was to go to America, but Canada is like the next best thing, right? So when they come to Canada, they end up in Toronto housing or whatever, but they don't acknowledge it as a low income. Like, what do they know? Because where they came from was just the slums, in their country. So anything's better than that. So like, certain areas that majority of like Guyanese people would all migrate to. I guess they tell each other like, this is where we're at this area. So
Right.
My family started in one neighborhood, but then my dad seen that, this one's kind of rough. So he moved to another neighborhood, village where I'm from now, born and raised 36 years. And I basically, it was lively when I was growing up. It was like, the 90s and it was lively. There was programs. There was a lot going on. Sense of community has always been there, My dad's a pastor. Entire family otherwise is all Hindu. So when my dad made that conversion, he was like on a mission to like, make sure that his kids grow up Christian and this is a Christian household. So I was pretty much sheltered a bit, given a lot of responsibilities as a pastor's son. Mom and dad did a great job, but like there's only so much that they could shelter you from the world, right? So I would say when they dropped us off to school, our home school is in another, area that's kind of known for bad stuff or whatever. So there's schools in between closer, but for some reason we don't attend those schools. We have to go to our home school because our postal code or whatever takes us somewhere else. So
for people who don't know, and I think this is so important, and we're not going to name the areas because I don't want you to feel any ways about this. And I told you before we start, there's something that you don't want to share with the public. I'm not trying to get you to share anything you're uncomfortable with. But there's a lot of people that listen to my podcast to try to understand some of the background and some of the history and what might drive people to enter the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
And so, you're saying that even being on a podcast is trying to help share people's stories. If you name different communities that might have an issue with other communities, you might be opening up yourself to some problems.
Yeah, so I just don't feel the need to name like them, but
because of that, because there may be some issues that arise as a result.
Yeah, of course, Toronto is big on that, but pretty much like just coming in these areas as a, middle school age, like grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, you have to understand like the things that we're exposed to and the amount of violence and things that we've seen firsthand experiences, right? So it's like,
and are you seeing those things in the home or in the community?
You're seeing that in the community. In the home is also like West Indian home is very rough. It's like your parents taught to you very, roughly, like, and it's just like you leave the home already kind of angry and pissed off because the temperature at home is just like, always a shortage, some argument over finances or something, everybody's working, jobs, 2, 3 jobs, just trying to pay the rent, whatever. But, I grew up without cable. I didn't have cable. We had an antenna, we didn't have really brand name clothes or anything, so we just wore our cousins' hand me downs. So it like real 90s aesthetics, so basically, the things that we're exposed to at 14, we weren't able to really, I feel like I wasn't able to be a kid. Like, I feel like from like 14 years old, I caught my first charge. I caught an assault charge, so like even with me catching a charge, like, like I was just trying to stand up for what was right. And some guy was trying to bully someone, and I don't like bullies, and I just punched the guy in his face and I got charged with assault. So from 14, getting a young offenders charge, already being in the system. Now I have little conditions or whatever. Back in the days, there was something called a TAVIS unit. And the TAVIS unit basically terrorized our lives as kids, because they're running up on us every single day, searching us, beating us up. I've been assaulted by the police like terribly. Like I've got beaten to the point where like I can't even speak the words I'm yelling on the inside, but not a word can come out because I'm like winded to death, broken ribs, kicked in your face. Like when you're handcuffed, you have to, try to absorb the hits with maybe your head instead of your face or like whatever. So you get hit so much to the point where you're like just waiting for the next hit, So these are things that I dealt with as a youth, like, from 14. So from 14, I'm just already trying to figure out how do I navigate this. So
Now, I was litigating some of the cases involving TAVIS because I started practicing in criminal defense in 2010. And so TAVIS was alive and well. And for, anyone not in the system, it was Toronto's anti-violence, I think, integration squad or something. I can't remember what IS stands for, but it was their supposedly the anti-violence squad that was being sent into various, impoverished communities and was basically conducting illegal detentions, illegal searches, running up on people, seeing who had what. Sometimes they found people who were caught carrying contraband. Oftentimes they weren't. I was hearing from so many clients who would tell me that they spent years being illegally searched by the same unit, and it's part of what caused them to enter the world of crime. Because they figured, if I'm just doing the right thing, going to school and going to play basketball and walking home from the courts, I got these cops running up on me and searching me. Why am I trying to do things the right way if I'm going to get treated as though I'm doing things the wrong way in any event?
Yeah, they used to run up like deep, a lot of them, and, they say, where's your ID? And then they'll charge you for a roach. So anything, a dime, a roach, anything, So imagine you get your first weed charge, you go to court, they give you like a variation. No, what was it called? Diversion.
Right.
You do a little diversion program. The second time they say, oh, we're not supposed to give you diversion. They give you another diversion. You get the third time. Now they're like, okay, well, you have to come back to court, whatever. So as a kid, I got like so much weed charges, like, got charged with offenses that I never did just because other people use my name and stuff and whatever, and I was just kind of a solid guy. So I just like, just ran with it, I'm just like, whatever, hugged a charge for somebody or whatever, but at the end of the day, my name in the system is not really looking too good from a young age. And I'm already feeling rebellious because how many times that they assaulted me and just beat me up and they just want me to tell on somebody. And I'm just like, I'm not saying nothing. I have the right to remain silent, right? So it's like, I feel like my own existence is illegal, if I'm just...
Wow, that's powerful.
That's
That's a powerful sentiment to think that you're going through life as a teenager feeling like your existence is illegal.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. So And in the midst of all of that, it's like poverty, right? So my parents in the home, the arguments are like mental breakdown type arguments, things that will make you feel like, holy, like the world's about to end,
Right.
can't pay the bills, this and that. So when you're leaving out there in the world, obviously as a guy, like as a man, like I want to try to provide for my family in some shape or form, whether it's like getting a job at McDonald's at No Frills or whatever. I always like had a job, but the job's like only doing so much too, right? So it's like eventually I'm in the streets trying to, just make a little ends meet or something, little provision if I can, But at the end of the day, it comes with a lot. So just being from Toronto, being a guy, once you leave your house, you look a certain way on brown skin, you know, people just say like automatically they're gonna target me, the police and then plus people in the streets. Like the streets is, there's different levels, there's like people that are just hustling, people that are robbing, people that are killing, so there's different like some people are kidnappers, like, there's levels to it, so I think I was at a first level, but then guys that were on this level was bringing it to me, when I'm just 14, 15.
So I think this is a really interesting point because a lot of people don't appreciate that, you're 14, 15, you're starting to get involved in the system. You're starting, you said you're getting caught or like weed related offenses, small
Yeah.
stuff, assaults, things like that. But that's the point in which there could have been some intervention from the system addressing why is this happening. That obviously didn't happen for you, I'm assuming. Nobody was trying to,
Nah,
like, help you overcome whatever issues you had. And
nah.
that also, I mean, you're going back to obviously the same environment that you came from. You're
Yeah.
going back to the same household that you've got all these issues in to
Hmm.
begin with, but you're also going back into the same community. And now the older guys know that you're starting to enter the system, you're starting to cycle through. And
Hmm.
so, how does that play out for you?
I would never say like any older guys like had anything on me, but what I would say is like that my reasoning for just like, you know, getting deeper into things is just survival. Like survival as in like I was saying like when I'm just on a smaller level, but then there's some guys that just came out from Kingston Penn doing 10 years and he's trying to bring it to me because I might be a young boy getting a little money or something, And then I'm not ready for that level, but the streets doesn't wait for you to be ready. It's just fast track into it, So me just trying to survive after, being threatened to be kidnapped, to be robbed, extorted, stuff like that. And I'm seeing the toughest guys, the toughest, the baddest of them, all getting ran upon. You know, people are eating foods, people are running up in cribs. Like this is a common thing that was happening around the 2000s. Like there's a time where like, cameras just started coming out, So what about the times before the cameras? And there's a time where a lot of people got raided and deported. But what about before the raids and all of that? Toronto was just like it's like a wild place still, right? So me as a kid growing up, like people used to be on the streets, like they'll just come up to you, dip in your pockets, take your phone, take your change, take everything you have. So like now everyone has cell phones. They don't know because like now people don't steal phones because there's like a tracker on it. So it's not really worth it to steal a phone. But back then, people would just take everything you got. So me just being like, I feel like of a Guyanese ethnicity too, I felt like an extra pressure that, to survive out here, like the jails are 90% like black population too. And I'm a brown skin. Some people, they label me as black, but, it's still like a little gray area. But what I was just trying to say is like, I live in my family, this and that. There's some people that they just grow up in the trap houses and they just grow up in the hood and, you know, they're going to look at me like, oh, they're going to try to take something from me or they're trying to kill me. I've been in so many situations where back against the wall, guns pointed at me, So you know, there's comes a point in your life where, you know, you have that talk with yourself and you're like, I don't want to die or I'm scared to die. So like if I just have like a last second chance to protect myself, like, you know, would I take that? You know, like I said, your parents could save you so much when they drop you off to school or whatever. Now you enter the real world, and the real world's no forgiveness. They don't care about your family, your mom, your dad, where you come from. Even when you go to jail, you're a new fish. People don't care who you are. Like, you know, until they get to know you, you explain yourself. Like, there's so many people that are heartless out here. So at the end of the day, like, I just think, you know, maybe the reason why, you know, I was just scared to die, maybe, you know, and then maybe now in my older age, maybe I'm not afraid to die. So that's why I'm taking a stand up for community. Community leaders get killed, like in Toronto. It's a fact, you know, like it happens. So it's like I'm putting myself in a line knowing this, but maybe when I was a kid, I wasn't ready to die. I didn't want to die yet, you know, and I was like in so many situations where I felt like if I just had it on me, then I could have got out of this situation, you know? So
And when you
even,
say it, for people who aren't, who people who are listening and aren't in the life, you mean having a gun on you?
yeah.
Because there's a lot of talk. Like I have
Hmm.
people from all sides of the political and social spectrum that listen to this podcast and that, you know, are on my Instagram feed. And there are
Hmm.
people who will listen and totally understand and relate to everything you're saying right now.
Yeah, some
And then
people
there's
won't.
people who are so far removed from the life. They're
Yeah.
not a part of the justice system at all. They're not in community housing at all. They don't know anyone. And all they hear on the news all the time, 14-year-old the gun, 15-year-old the gun, 16-year-old the gun.
Hmm.
And, you know, obviously they don't want to be the victims of like a carjacking or a robbery.
Yeah.
And
For
they think,
example, there's legal gun owners, right? And there's in America, they have the right to bear arms, right? But in Canada, you're pretty much kind of limited. And then even if you are, because I know some people are educated to that aspect, but a lot of us growing up in these neighborhoods, we're not educated to like the gun laws or whatever. We just, and I don't even think we would be able to.
well, there's
Well,
no carry concealed in this
yeah,
country. Even if you're
exactly.
like, I'm a legal gun owner. Like legal gun
Yeah,
owners, we can't carry concealed. So
yeah.
we can't be out in the street with a gun in our pocket
It'll
as
be
just
like
ordinary
in a
citizens.
locked box or something.
Correct. And
Yeah.
so, you know, but a lot of people here and they're like, why is this 16-year-old you know, carrying a gun?
Yeah.
So why do 16-year-old carry generally
Yeah.
from your both personal experience and the youth that you work with today, without obviously naming anybody, but like
Mm.
as a general question, why would a 16-year-old feel like they need to have a gun on them?
So I feel like people just move on to the next news story
Right.
and they're just like, okay, whatever. You know, just the other day, a little kid got a stray bullet, got killed, right? So this is a reality that we live in that people may try to cover up and like hide, you know, by saying like, yeah, because life goes on and there are so many beautiful days in life. But like when these tragic moment happens, it's like, let's not forget that this thing happened. And if you ever been in the situation, it's easy to have an opinion from the outside, you know, like if you ever been in a situation, have you ever been on a roller coaster and your body gives that kind of like reaction, that fight or flight kind of thing? Like what do you do? There's like a panic nervous system that's going on in your body. So when you deal with so many situations, seeing this firsthand experience, you know, think about me seeing brains, blood, stuff like that from a kid, and then now
So
growing
you
up.
witnessed gun violence in your youth? Like
Yeah,
you saw it.
of course,
Well, a lot of people don't know that this
yeah,
is an actual reality of growing up in our city. So it's so interesting that you say, of course,
yeah.
because I
A
mean,
lot of
maybe you're
people
just
are
assuming that I knew,
oblivious.
but you know, for anyone who this isn't their reality, you know, explain why the types of things that you see and the types of people, things that you help other people work through that would lead a
Mhm.
teenager to want to carry a gun.
Yeah, it's just like pressure. I think they're in a rush to grow up. I think these youths are in a transitional phase in their life where it's like you're not yet a kid, but you're not yet an adult. So nobody takes you serious. You have all these ideas, want to do things. Everyone's just like, yeah, yeah, telling you what to do. So I feel like at that stage, like, you know, maybe youth, nobody's understanding them. So when they're trying to tell people it's real out here, stuff's going on, they're like, you should be in school, you should be doing this, you have your whole life ahead of you. And they're like, if you're not going to listen, then they're just probably not even going to trust you to tell you anything, but they're going to figure it out. For example, when I was 14, like if you were to ask me where to get something, I don't know, but I'm going to, get it regardless. So these people are getting it regardless. There's like, do you think anyone knows of like gun stores or anything? So it's not about like where it's coming from or whatever. It's just that if there's a will, there's a way. If there's a need, it's going to be there. It's going to be fulfilled. So at the end of the day, it's survival. Like, how valuable is your life? Because you only have one. So if somebody takes my life, then I just die. But like if I was able to defend myself or something, live to see another day. Like some stories on the news that I've seen, that somebody tries to run up in this guy's spot and he is able to defend himself. It doesn't mean that you have to, like, you can do it to the extent of self-defense. You don't have to go all in. Like, say like the police, when they run up on people, it's excessive amount of bullets and shots. Like, why don't you just shoot them in the leg or something? So it's like that heat in the moment. No one could describe it. So if you've ever been in the heat of the moment and been on the other side of the gun, then, you would feel the anxiety, the PTSD, the mental health, the depression, like all that. But do I go around telling people like, hey, like mental health, like, because that's a disability nowadays. So now if I open up, now all of a sudden I'm a person with mental health, like I need to be treated special. It's like, I'm normal. I'm just like everyone else. I went through the system and the system's holding me back, and it's been so many years after my charge, but the record only starts after your warrant expiry date. Like after your parole is done, then your record starts. And I have a 10-year indictable offense. So let's say if it was a 5-year record, I would be like good now, kind of on my way. Just growing with life. I took my 5 years, developed myself, and I'm one of the, in the system, even in the jail, I was like, compared to everybody, all the inmates in the population, I am like more of a chill you, more of a good you, compared to like some of the real sickos that I seen out there. But I don't discriminate. Like I was in jail and I was best friends with all the killers and all the murderers. Like they're all my friends. They're all good people. You just don't know the situations that people are placed in front of them. So some people, yes, they are a lot of waste youths out here that are, hitting innocents and crashing out. A lot of, 14-year-old youths with firearms, and they're stealing cars and they're doing dumb stuff. But, so like you have to see who does it righteously.
Let's talk
and
about
who's
that.
doing it crash out, like,
Because you're part of an older generation now, right? You're mid 30s. So you're in the older generation. When you were running around the streets, there was a bit of a code of ethics.
Exactly.
You didn't run up on a civilian who was unconnected to street life. If you were going to run up in someone's house, it was a rival gang member, a rival drug dealer. It was a rival. Or you were looking to rob someone of their guns or their drugs. There was like a code. People weren't doing, home invasions on an innocent civilian to get the keys to their BMW that was parked on the driveway.
Exactly.
That was not the culture back in like the 2000s.
It probably still happened, but it's more common now. Like the commonality of the crash out culture.
What is that? What's the crash out culture for people who don't know?
Crashing out just means when you just like throw your life away, to do something stupid. Back in the days, if people was doing something, you're trying not to get caught. Right? So you're trying to be a smooth criminal and even have longevity, even though there probably is none. But there are some people that are real militant, very discreet, do their things very neatly, But this generation, everyone's telling on themselves. They're just crashing out. They don't care if they get caught because, I'm not trying to say it's not a strict punishment, but when you go to jail, like think about what really happens when you go there. Like day one, you walk into the range And then that's it. It's just very still, right? But there's living people in here. Cause like you can go on a range while everyone's locked down. And then, or you can walk on a range while everybody's out. There's certain hours like that people are out on the range. So if you walk out there and people are out, then you're going to get surrounded. And it's like, there's no government structure in, like, what do they say? Rehabilitation, correction. Like, who does that? The guards, the staff?
So there's no rehabilitation because
Yeah.
the general public thinks that like
You just go in there
you get rehabilitated.
and all it is inmates on inmates. So everybody's just hanging out as if this was like you're on the block in the staircase, or this is just a bigger staircase and we're all here from different areas and nobody knows each other. Nobody likes each other. Everyone has their own thing going on. They're just creating a systematic like way for people to have problems with each other. It's like a stirring pot for problems, And like I seen one of your Instagram posts when you're talking about the inmates doing 3 to a cell. And think about that, 3 to a cell. There has to be a hierarchy. Who's sleeping on the floor? Someone's gonna fight for that. Who's using the shower? Someone's gonna fight for that. Who's using the phone?
phones?
Yeah. Some people are not even using it. They'll just hang it and be like, "What? That's mine."
Wow.
Touch that. See what happens. Some people just put a sock on it and be like, and just leave it hanging, and they're doing whatever, and you still can't touch it. There's not no like, I don't know what people think jail is. It's not like 60 days in. None of these shows, Toronto jail is not like none of these shows. It's just like literally like,
So do you think like kids today are doing easy time or hard time, or like
it's hard time.
So the defense bar, like we're fighting to try to get people's constitutional rights respected in the jail because we know, number one, especially for people who haven't even been convicted of an offense yet, you're treating people in an inhumane fashion who are presumed innocent.
Exactly.
Which is the cornerstone, obviously, of our justice system. But at the end of the day, I've been saying for a long time, I think that our jails are one of the most violent environments sanctioned in Canada. Eventually, most inmates come out. And if you treat someone like an absolute animal in a cage and then just release them back out into the community, you cannot expect them to be functioning in a pro-social format. Like you can't expect them to want to do good and now have respect for the law.
Exactly.
But,
so for example, like, sorry to cut you off,
yeah,
but
no.
I used to always have a job, just a little, something on the side, whatever. I went to jail, it turned me into an animal. The conditions turned me into a savage. A real savage. I wasn't human no more. Like I literally turned into an inmate. I gave in. I said, I'm orange, you're blue. Let's go. Let's do this, because every day you're treated like you're nothing. So basically, we have a couple inmates that shout out to the guys that are good at negotiating and speaking up and advocating, because there's some people that are very good with their words and know how to argue without arguing, but like being respectful and disrespectful at the same time. So like those guys are great. Like we have riots, for our rights. We'll say we're refusing to do this, refusing to do that. And the way they apply pressure, the guards, a lot of inmates don't have that heart. They are innocent people in jail, right? So some people don't have the heart. They'll give in, mid protest. But then some people are like, nah, like we're standing strong to this, and they'll bring the SWAT team, everything, So the guards do a lot of stuff. Think about this, like you said, who judge the judges, right? So in the jails, who is going to see what's going on there? They run that world. So, even though there's cameras and stuff, people are getting rushed by the guards every single day. And inmates on inmate violence every day, of course. That's a given. Like through every jail, when it's code blue, everybody wants to know who it is, because like every day it's going to be a code blue. And then code blue is what the guards know about. What about all the things they don't know about, which is every day? So anybody that has family in the jails and, they're not going to tell you. You think anyone wants their family to worry? They're going to say everything's blessed, everything's good, don't worry. But do you know what's really going on? Hey, I have no idea. It's a war zone in there.
And so knowing this, explain to me, but to the general public,
Yeah.
and even to me, how do we reconcile the fact that we know that the conditions in the jails currently are worse than they've ever been,
Yeah.
and yet you're talking about a generation involved in what you've labeled crash out culture.
Yeah.
So we've got kids who are committing crimes. They're outing themselves. And I know that because I get their cell phone extractions. Everybody's recording their own crimes, which is like this phenomenon that I don't understand. Everyone wants to document their own crimes. They want it posted on Instagram. They're talking about it freely. They're also doing things in not only just broad daylight, like we can't walk down the street without being caught on someone's CCTV footage.
Exactly.
Whether it's a business, a private citizen, cars now,
Dash
everything.
cams, doorbell cams,
That's
everything.
it. Everything.
Yeah.
You can't exist in this world without being on camera.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that. So, is it just like, is it a cult, like this crash out culture? They just don't care. They don't mind going to jail. Like there are people who think jail should be worse for people. I don't think that's the solution. But what is the solution?
I don't know about the solution. I would say, why would they build more jails? They're saying they're overpopulated, build more jails. Like that's going to solve anything. But yeah, they probably need more jails to like house people in that term. But at the same time, like this whole thing is a money grab. Like think about this. They need crime. Like society needs crime. It's like a balance, right? So how does the judge get paid? Courthouse is never empty.
Correct.
Right now we have cases that are backlogged for like how long? Then how long till you get a court date or your trial? They'll just put you on months on months on months. Like your life doesn't even matter. Every time you go, okay, next month, we'll come back next month. Every month, just push in. So at this end of the day, it's like this system, there's so much wrong with it in that sense. The way inmates are treated is so inhumane. So if they're just playing with their life now because of court backlog, and putting them in inhumane conditions, making it worse and worse and worse. And think about trauma from one day. 1 day life trauma. 1 day, I bet you like the mayor or anyone could not even go for 1 day, and not in SEG or the good range, the step down, the PC, go into Gen Pop for 1 day, and think about doing that every day. And if they go 1 day, they're going to make it be the real day where you get out and you do this, right? Go on one of the bad days. And they could lock you for 3 days with no shower, 72 hours. Then they'll say, oh, shower program. Then, who goes first? Like everybody's saying, okay, you went first. All right. When these cells open up, you know what time it is. So what's the solution? I would say you got to allocate funds in different areas. Right now, policing, jails don't do nothing but make you worse. They turn you into the inmate. When you release back in society, I don't feel welcome. Like I feel like, when I went to jail, I almost felt a sense of belonging. I almost felt like, oh, like everybody here understands me, like everybody gets me. Like we're not bad people. It's just situational things that happen. But then think about this, like right now I'm doing my youth program, and this is how like the whole change happened, because jail never scared me straight. I never got rehabilitated, none of that shit. I came out worse. I came out on intentions, maybe I'm going to start a gang and terrorize the city or something, Like, let's get it. Like, let's get this money, or anyone tries to fuck with us. Like, now with the links that I made from jail, like, you can't break this. Like, we have brotherly bonds. You're living with people, So
How long were you incarcerated for?
For just a year.
Okay.
I got blessed, because.
And so in that year is all it took for you, and you described yourself, you came out like an animal. You came out with better connections. You thought you were going to
Yeah.
start a gang and terrorize
I
the
mean,
city.
I had the influence. I have the influence. Like, you have to understand why these kids are going to jail when they come out. They have this, oh, this clout. Like, oh, you did a bid. So even me before that, I had clout before there was clout. Like, I was already like moving, doing things as a youth. When I got released, everyone's kind of waiting for my cue. Like what's the word? What's going on? Like, what are we gonna do now? You know? Because I was like a huge influence in my neighborhood before I left. So then when I came back, I was like, all right, let me see what's up. And then when I'm trying to think I'm going to turn it on again, then, I started seeing things that, like, I'm on so much conditions. So any little thing, I'm
Like your
going
parole
right back.
conditions?
It was 1 hour a day. Then I just asked them, like, yo, how am I supposed to find a job? Like, and my conditions, I have to be in school or work,
Right.
and I'm going to parole with all these limitations. I was like, I just expected I'm just gonna reoffend, and I'm like, nah, man. Like, I need better for myself. Like, I know that I can do better. And then it was COVID, and everyone's complaining about quarantine, and I'm like, well, you guys know about lockdown, quarantine. Like, this ain't nothing. Like, this is soft. Like, you guys have the bathroom. Like, when I first came out of jail, I didn't know if I could shower naked. I was like wearing my boxers, like it was still certain things I had to get out of my head. So it's like when it was lockdown and they put yellow tape on the basketball court, which besides like 12 years ago, we got the Raptors to rebuild the court, my little brother, by sending them an email and showing them the conditions were terrible. Like, so basically in doing that now, I was like, this is my court. So they put yellow tape on it. I'm like, yo. So with the jail workouts that I was already doing on the range, because like I was on like a gang range and the whole gang has to work out like an army, like a unit, and they're preparing for battle.
Right.
So basically when I came out, I don't have no weights, I don't have no equipment. I'm doing all the jail routine workouts. And then it started as like 2 people.
Okay.
And then eventually I seen like 5 people, and then 10 people, then 15 people consistently every single day. Because at this time, like, I just have these few hours I can come outside.
Right.
With me trying to keep the jail routine going, it's like this started because we didn't need anything fancy. We just needed each other to come out and motivate each other. And then when I seen that, actually, it's like the law of attraction. Like, doors started opening up. People started hitting me up. Everyone wants to be a part of it, And like, I seen people from that are professional basketball players come out and do workshops with the youth, how to dribble, how to do this. Certain people from podcasts, and everyone's like, oh, we want you on our podcast. You want to talk about this? So it was like all of a sudden, everyone was intrigued by the positivity that I brought. When before, when I was just doing my negativity, like nobody really cared. I was like a very dark person, like I was not talkative at all. I would never share my story back in the days. I was silent, mute, right to remain silent all day. Now I started opening up because I realized how powerful like my story and my message could be. There are some youth that are 14 that are blicked up right now, and they don't care about what I have to say. They're gonna call me washed up. I'm a unk. They'll even say this is snitching, talking to you on a podcast. They would consider that as like dry snitching or something.
Right.
But I would never snitch. Like, I come from the streets. So this is just me trying to use my lived experience to show people, like, for example, when I went to jail, I started working out, doing 1,000 push-ups a day, reading books. And like, honestly, maybe because it forces you, because you have no other obligations, no other things to do. So, but it's like, do you need jail to do 1,000 push-ups and read a book right now? No.
Right.
So like, why wait till you get there to learn these lessons if I could save you that trip from like all these things that I've been doing, And like, I transformed my life to be living proof, So I'm walking the walk. I could talk the talk later, but right now I'm on this journey, and I feel like people just could see me lead by how I live and what I do, my actions, So I had to put certain things down and say, yo, like, okay, if I'm going to do the community, I can't be like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I have to be the community or the streets. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be that guy that's just like dibbling, dabbling, you know? I'm like, I've been there, done that. And I'm at an age right now where I can look any gangster in the face, any bodman in the face and say, yo, I'm done with that. Like, you can't even influence me, peer pressure me, nothing.
And that event, and so I definitely want to end on this note because we're at time, but this is so important. You run the commitment program.
Yeah.
When did you start the commitment program?
So I started it essentially when I came out the mid in 2020.
Okay.
And that little workout program that I was doing.
Right.
That
was the
commitment
catalyst
program.
for it.
Yeah.
And so that workout program draws in people from the community.
Yeah.
You see what kind of a leader you can be. You have a choice. You can either lead people into gang activity or you can lead people into positivity. And you choose positivity and call it the commitment program. What is that? What does it do?
Now that I have their attention,
yes,
I'm like, okay, so I want to implement some other things, like some life skills, things they don't teach you in school. Like, so I was feeling really big on financial literacy, knowing your rights, and even like health and nutrition and wellness, mental health, stuff like that. So from that perspective, when I told people about knowing your rights, a lot of people are like, oh, yes, we'll get Toronto police involved, this and that, you know? So I was just like, nah, man, I don't want this to be from that perspective. I have to have it from like a lawyer's perspective or something. But going back to the program, like, you know, just saying, I was doing the program, people started coming out, it started getting bigger and bigger. But in the winter, it's a disconnect with the youth because we don't have an indoor space. We've been doing all this stuff outside on the basketball court. And they even tell me that I'm not allowed to do my program on the court, but I just do it because I feel passionate, like that's my court. Like me and my brother sent the email, they responded to us.
Right.
We got it made, not you guys. So I still do this with or without permission.
And who does not want you running a program on the basketball courts to help steer youth in your community in a positive direction? Like, so that to me is mind blowing. Mm-hmm. You're not asking for handouts. It's not like you're starting a gang on the basketball court. You are actually trying to do the opposite. It's like an anti-gang initiative.
Exactly.
Who does not want you doing that?
So because our property is like a condo corporation, they have a condo board, and the board members are all like elderly people that are not. So in our community, in order to join the board, you need to be an owner, a home owner. Unfortunately, a lot of people are just renters. So like our voices are never heard as renters. But my father is a homeowner, but he used to be part of the property management before the new owners came in. So they don't like my dad because my dad used to do all this like positive stuff for the community, which is probably where I get it from, right? So it's like now they don't like my dad. It's a new management. They look at us like we're thugs. Like this is going to lower the property value. So they don't even want me to post flyers, all these things. Like I still post my flyers. I still go there. Now I'm trying to do things more correctly, right? So like they're going to give me pushback. I need this permit. I need this. Okay, I get this. Because for years I've been telling them I'm not a kid. I'm a grown man. Like they always going to treat us like we're kids, like we don't know nothing. But I'm like, listen, I'm not a little kid. I'm a grown man and I'm doing this with or without your help. So don't let me get the city involved because now the city is involved. And I've been trying to send emails with this city attached and everything. They never responded to the point where, you know, the city started getting more involved. And we finally got a community space. So they've granted us a space now with the help from like another major neighborhood.
Okay.
So they're reaching their funds out to our neighborhood, our smaller neighborhood, which shows you like, you know, some people are just going to focus on them and their neighborhood, but other areas and the government will like have us all like labeled in different grids and different sections. So we all get different supports. So there is funding and support for our neighborhood, but the city was just unaware because we don't have a community structure in place to like express that, you know? So now we've come together as a resident led group to run the commitment program and our other programs. We also do like groceries for like elderly people during the winter, actually all year long. But in the winter, we're out there. We didn't have a space. We just set up tables and people line up. And sometimes we take boxes to people's homes because they can't walk outside. They're like old. So like,
and this is part of what this is your initiative that you're describing.
so it's me and the other community members. So we've been operating without funding, without any help, without even a space. So this just goes to show you where our heart is and our intentions are. Like for me, it's like 36 years old, born and raised. It's like the love for my community is like in my genetics. Like, you know, I have like a passion for it. And I could have been fighting that passion in the streets. Like, you know, I could have been like, yo, this is my block a different way.
Right.
You know, but I was like, no, this is my community a different way. Like as long as I'm here, I want to be able to provide things for the kids to do and outlets for them to express themselves and to try different avenues because they probably didn't know they like something because they just never tried it. Like, for example, yesterday we did basketball painting for the youth with the help from Rebecca, and also my boy Jason came through and he did tie-dye t-shirts. So we had like a whole arts and crafts day and all the kids came out and it was just like a beautiful vibe. But those same youth that I'm trying to target, they didn't come out because they feel a little too cool. So like, you know, it's like to get the youth involved takes work, and it takes me to show up and be there in person. And for me as an adult, I have to pay bills. I gotta work. I'm busy. My schedule is so busy. So like I have to carve out my schedule to be there in person for these youths to even build a relationship with them. You know, so I'm doing this with or without payment just because like my heart is like pulling me to do these things, you know?
It's really amazing
Mm-hmm.
because like you said, you know, throughout this interview, like you easily could have gone another way.
Yeah.
And you were involved so far deep in another way and you decided to make this turn and now you're giving back to your community in ways that you didn't have access to, you know, and perhaps if someone was able to give you at 14 what you're trying to give your community today, maybe you would not have ended up in jail. You wouldn't have that criminal record that is preventing you from, you know, accessing different sources of employment now or different income that you could have been raising otherwise.
Exactly.
And that's incredible. Most people don't do that and don't come back to the community and don't try to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And not, you know, for not wanting to help others or see other people succeed, but they're so focused on themselves and needing to get out, needing to improve their own space.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible story, incredible journey. I really love what you're doing and what you stand for. And as you know, I will be there to do your workshop on Know Your Rights. And I'm really excited to be able to do that and help your community.
Exactly. Like you said, like I wish I had that when I was 14.
Yes.
You know, like when I was 14, didn't really have nothing but, you know, the LCBO or the bear store, right?
Yes.
These are our coping mechanisms. These are things that taught us. So at the end of the day, even the youth, like I hope that when they see me on a podcast, they see like the passion behind it. Cause I think right now there's still a disconnect because I'm so much older than them. So now they might look at me like I'm an unk, right? But I'm trying to tell them, nah, man, I'm just like an OG. Like I'm just like you guys. But at the end of the day, you know, like I didn't have this stuff growing up and maybe they're just walking into it and they don't know like how like blessed they are. So they just don't feel that need. But like hopefully maybe this podcast or something, they hear the story, they hear the backstory, they could appreciate it, you know, because I've been doing this stuff in the community like for so many years. It's going to be my 13th annual basketball tournament.
Wow. That's amazing.
So,
that's amazing.
Yeah. So shout out to my neighborhood, village, you know, and free all the people that's locked up. You know, I have a lot of people locked up right now, wrongfully accused, all that stuff. But hopefully, you know, we're going to get them out, you know.
I hope you get them out. I hope they make the changes they want to be living the life that they actually want to be living. And I hope they also give back the way that you've been giving back, because that's what it's going to take to make changes on a grander scale.
Yeah.
So, Jeremy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out on this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Another episode of Who Judges the Judge.